afternoon from Los Angeles and happy Friday. This is Stock Market Today, and on today's show we're going to be taking a look at Amazon moving on earnings, as well as a look at Qorvo in the chip space, and we're going to check in on a silver play. But first, let's take a look at the major indexes. It's Alyssa Corum here with Ken Shreve, and Ken, it was a brutal day in the market. We have the Nasdaq closing down about 1.5%, the S&P down 1.7%, the Dow down 2%, the S&P getting very close to its 50-day line.
Yeah, not a very good day for stocks today. We had seen some signs of distribution earlier in the week. Of course, pretty sharp sell-off on Monday, where we saw the S&P 500 log a distribution day. Had a stalling session for the Nasdaq on Wednesday. So there have been signs of institutional selling in the market for a little while now, but this is what a day of unequivocal institutional selling looks like. We have big percentage declines. We're going to have NYSE volume and NASDAQ volume coming in much higher than what we saw Thursday. So the silver lining, NASDAQ still holding comfortably above its 50-day moving average, but we have a chart of the S&P here. You can see it's barely holding on to that key support level, the red line there, the 50-day moving average. And finally, lots to talk about. You know, the Dow and Russell 2000 gave up support at their 50-day moving averages today.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we will be keeping close tabs on that. And for a more detailed analysis of current market conditions, make sure you check out today's big picture at investors.com and in the IBD Weekly this weekend. Let's take a look at some individual names, starting off with Amazon. Those shares finishing the day up about 7.4% above average turnover here, as that stock gapped up on its quarterly earnings report. A very hefty earnings beat here. So a gap up here for Amazon, Ken, but it did close almost at the very bottom of its intraday range.
Yeah, and this was a stock that for the vast majority of the session had been holding on to gains pretty well, so there was some late selling in Amazon as well, but still this qualifies as as definitely a breakout. And maybe at investors.com later you can check out a weekly chart, and the weekly chart still looks pretty good, despite a pretty harsh down day for the market. But numbers overall for Amazon were outstanding. I mean, it was a huge earnings beat, a significant sales beat as well. I think their Amazon Web Services business, which is one of their big growth drivers at this point, that came in better than expected. I remember when the company reported third quarter results in October, Jeff Bezos said they were going to be spending about $1.5 billion just to improve delivery for the holidays, either same day or next day delivery. So their delivery continues to be pretty strong. So those investments seem to be paying off. And Amazon Prime members now more than 150 million. Pretty impressive.
Wow, that is. And can you mention the weekly chart? I think that's a very good point. If we could pull up that weekly chart there, because it's always good to put these things into perspective. It was a very strong breakout from this cup with handle base, even flirted with new all-time highs. It did close off of those levels today, but nonetheless, we do like looking at these earnings gaps because oftentimes that's a good sign of momentum for what's to come.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we saw the daily chart; it did give back a lot of its intraday gain on the daily chart. But the weekly chart here shows a good solid breakout in heavy volume.
And moving on, chip stocks got slammed today, so we're going to be taking a look at a weekly chart of Qorvo, which lost about 6.6% for the week, giving up its 50-day moving average, Ken. And now this is a name in a sector that has seen very strong gains. You can see just the powerful move that Qorvo has made over the last few months. Yeah,
it really has been one of the strong performers in the chip sector. We heard from Qorvo earlier this week, actually a pretty good earnings report. But the stock did not have a good day yesterday. They reported earnings late Wednesday after the close. But this is just a good example of what a sell signal looks like on a weekly chart. So if you're holding stocks in your portfolio and you look at the weekly charts and you see a decisive break of the 10-week moving average in volume, more often than not, that's going to be a sell signal. So for those who bought Qorvo several weeks ago, and Qorvo is a pretty significant Apple supplier, but when those who bought Qorvo several weeks ago, when it broke out in heavy volume, you got a decisive sell signal today with the break of the 10-week moving average.
Yeah, that's right. Very, very key. Even though, like you said, we're seeing the Nasdaq kind of holding in a range, you have to be looking at those sell signals for your holdings.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Nasdaq is ended the week above its 50-day moving average, but on a weekly chart, it's testing that key support level, the 10-week moving average. So I didn't mention also that obviously we just looked at Qorvo, one of the leaders in the chip making group, but the Philadelphia Semiconductor index at last check was down almost 4% today. So some are saying that chip stocks may be ready to surrender their leadership. It's probably too early to say, but really bearish action in chip stocks today.
Yeah, that's right. And investors flocking to safe haven areas, including silver. So let's take a look at ticker PAAS, a silver miner, Pan American Silver. This name on a weekly chart finding support at its 10-week line. So what do you make of the move here, Ken?
Well, I like the look of this chart. I mean, you mentioned gold miners, silver miners outperformed today, was one of the best performing groups, up around 1% at last check. But again, we like to see stocks when they break out of a base, and you can see Pan American Silver did that several weeks ago, several up weeks in a row, and it just came down to its 10-week moving average last week, and you saw a nice bounce off the line, and then the stock held above the 10-week line this week, and really didn't give up much ground at all from the prior week. So this is a stock that looks like it could be right in this current market that is starting to show signs of increasing distribution, institutional selling. It's a little wobbly here.
That it is. And again, for more detailed perspective, make sure you're checking out the big picture and our articles across investors.com. Also on Monday, to be sure, IBD Live will be chock full of in-depth analysis for you, updating you on the latest of what's going on in the market and how to handle those leading stocks. You can check out more details on that at investors.com/IBD Live, right, Ken?
Sounds good. I think Monday's going to be, like you said, chock full of information.
All right, looking forward to that. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching today. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here next week.